Usually when you look at a city skyline, the buildings that catch your eye first are the ones covered in glass.
Right.
They're reflecting the sun, or maybe they're covered in these massive, bright neon lights at night.
Oh, absolutely.
They're basically screaming for your attention.
Right, because they're engineered specifically to dominate the landscape. I mean, the entire architectural purpose there is outward visibility. It's ensuring that whoever is looking at the city sees that specific building before anything else.
Yeah, exactly. But then you look closer, right, down at the street level, and you see these older, solid stone buildings.
The ones that have been there forever.
Right. They aren't shiny. They don't have neon. But their foundations are dug incredibly deep into the bedrock. I mean, they've survived a century of storms, while those shiny glass towers, they have to swap out broken panels like every single year.
Yeah, they're constantly under repair.
Exactly. And that contrast between the flashy glass tower and the stone foundation, that is exactly what we're looking at today.
It's a great analogy.
Yeah. We've got this fascinating piece of source material called The Silent Architect, the old money mindset shift. And it argues that moving from being that shiny glass tower, what they call presentation, to the immovable stone foundation, which they call preservation, it changes absolutely everything about how you build wealth and just live your life.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because the most significant difference between the concept of old money and the mindset of someone who is, simply chasing wealth, it isn't actually the balance in their checking account.
Right. It's not just a big number.
No, not at all. The differentiator is the underlying psychology behind every single financial decision. It fundamentally alters how you spend, what you consider valuable, what you completely ignore, and frankly, the time frame over which you judge your own success.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the visual contrast in these notes is just so striking right out of the gate.
It is.
We are presented with this high contrast comparison. So on one side, you have flashy luxury displays. Think neon-colored fast sports cars, handbags covered head to toe in those bold intersecting logos, enormous designer belts.
Right, the stuff you can see from down the block.
Yeah. And then they contrast that with subtle, high-quality, timeless aesthetics. A quiet library, a simple, beautifully tailored suit without a single tag showing, unbranded leather goods.
What's fascinating here is the underlying motivation driving those completely different visual choices, because loud money, the flashy cars, the aggressive branding, it is fundamentally a mechanism for seeking validation.
Oh, totally.
It is an external play. Quiet wealth, on the other hand, is an internal play. It seeks privacy, security, and anonymity.
The source material calls this flashy consumption a status tax. And I was reeling this around in my head, and it feels like a completely voluntary, incredibly expensive subscription fee that people pay just to get temporary validation from strangers on the street.
That is a perfect way to put it. And it's a subscription fee that constantly increases in price, too, because trends change so rapidly.
Oh, right, because what's cool today is out next month.
Exactly. When you purchase an item specifically because the logo is recognizable from 20 feet away, you're essentially paying a heavy premium to convince a random passerby that you possess resources. You are taxing your own wealth to broadcast a message.
It's like paying a massive monthly fee to put up a billboard about yourself, hoping someone drives by and thinks you're successful.
Right, and the old money mindset recognizes that true financial security requires absolutely no broadcast.
Not at all.
In fact, they view broadcasting as a liability. When you visibly signal wealth, you attract the wrong kind of attention, you invite lifestyle inflation, and you make yourself really vulnerable to social pressure.
That's putting a target on your back.
You are. When you stop trying to prove you have money, you free up all that capital and mental energy to actually focus on preserving what you've built. The core quote from the text that anchors this whole philosophy is preservation over presentation.
Preservation over presentation. I love that. So the behavioral shift is intentionally opting for unbranded, high-quality items over flashing those trending logos. You're deciding that you don't need a corporate logo to validate the quality of the item, or, I guess more importantly, your own worth.
Yes. The focus permanently shifts from the external gaze to internal value. The silent architect isn't building a facade for the street. They are building a fortress for themselves.
A stone foundation.
Right. They evaluate materials, stitching, utility, completely ignoring the brand name stamped on the side.
Which logically opens up a huge question about how they actually evaluate the things they put inside that fortress.
Yeah.
Because if we are completely avoiding the status tax, avoiding the logos, how do we decide what is actually worth buying?
It's a completely different metric.
Yeah. And the notes focus heavily on this idea of buying for decades rather than buying for seasons.
This is the shift from novelty to longevity. Instead of evaluating a purchase based on whatever happens to be trending on social media this month, which, delivers a very quick, very fleeting hit of dopamine.
Oh yeah, that quick rush of clicking buy.
Exactly. But instead of that, you evaluate it based on its durability and its long-term utility.
The math they present for this is compelling. They talk about cost per wear or cost per use.
Yes, very important concept.
The idea that spending $400 up front on a timeless, impeccably made winter coat is mathematically smarter than constantly replacing a cheap, trend-driven $50 coat every single winter. But I really have to push back on this a bit.
Okay, let's hear the friction.
Because it sounds great in a textbook, right? But in reality, it feels a little flawed. If you're just starting out, or you're living paycheck to paycheck, isn't spending $400 up front on a timeless, essential fashionable luxury only people who already have money can afford?
It's a very fair point.
Like, practically speaking, if I only have $50 in my bank account today, I have to buy the $50 boots, and I know they'll fall apart in a year. How does adopting a mindset fix the mathematical reality that I'm still out $50 and my boots are broken?
That is a very real, very practical constraint. It's often referred to in economics as the boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness.
Oh, the boots theory.
Yeah, the idea that it is expensive to be poor because you can't afford the durable goods up front. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the old money approach isn't demanding you magically conjure $400 out of thin air.
Okay.
It is a filter for evaluating your available choices at whatever price point you are currently at.
But if my price point is $50, I'm still buying cheap boots.
You are, but even at $50, you face a critical choice in what kind of $50 boot you buy.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Right. Do you buy a highly stylized, trendy pair made of fake leather with unnecessary zippers that is designed to look like a much more expensive designer boot?
The glass tower boot?
Exactly. That boot will fall apart in 3 months because all the manufacturing budget went into making it look trendy. Or do you buy a $50 boot that is classic, unbranded, perhaps made of heavy canvas or basic rubber, built as sturdily as possible for that exact price point?
I see. So the canvas boot isn't trying to look rich. It's just trying to be a boot.
Precisely the point. By choosing the classic utility over the cheap imitation of luxury, that canvas boot might last you 12 or 18 months instead of 3.
Wow, yeah.
And now, because you bought yourself extra time, you can save an extra $5 a month. The next time you need boots, you have $100 to spend.
You're leveling up.
You incrementally build capital. Choosing durability and classic utility over a cheap, trending novelty is how you begin to build the mathematical advantage of this mindset, completely regardless of your current income bracket.
So you are exercising the muscle of long-term thinking. You are training your brain out of the disposable culture step by step, basically refusing to pay that status tax at every single level.
Yes, and it's hard because you are fundamentally overriding human psychology. We are biologically wired to crave novelty.
We really are.
We want the new shiny thing because it gives us an immediate reward. The old money mindset is about intentionally structuring your environment and your habits to bypass that biological urge. You are saying, I value the function and the longevity of this item more than the temporary thrill of a trend.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the source material takes this concept of a coat or a boot lasting a decade, and it scales it up to your entire existence.
Which is a huge leap.
It is, moving your mindset from thinking in months or financial quarters to a multi-generational horizon.
Which is incredibly difficult for the modern human brain to process. We struggle to picture ourselves a year from now, let alone 30 years from now.
We really do. It's like, what am I having for dinner tomorrow? I don't know. But the text is explicit. Short-term thinking almost always leads to high-risk, speculative behavior and very short-lived satisfaction.
It's the sugar rush of finance.
Right. You chase a hot stock tip you saw online. Or you jump from job to job just for a slight title bump, even if the culture is toxic. You buy the trendy car on a terrible lease. But long-term thinking prioritizes patience, asset accumulation, and the magic of compounding returns.
Because when your time frame is a decade, or 3 decades, the daily noise completely loses its power over you.
The source provides this ultimate guiding question, and I love this. It's, will this decision matter in 10 years? And if you apply that to your daily life, it feels incredibly freeing.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're dealing with a bad meeting, a short-term career hiccup, or just a temporary financial hurdle like a broken appliance, asking, will this matter in 10 years, suddenly makes the panic just evaporate.
It acts as a profound stabilizing force. Short-term thinking is inevitably driven by extreme emotion, usually fear or greed.
Yeah, the FOMO.
Right. You see a cryptocurrency surging, you fear missing out, you buy in at the absolute top, or the broader market dips, you panic about your retirement account, and you sell at the bottom.
Which is the worst time to sell.
Exactly. But a multi-generational horizon removes the panic. It allows you to sit quietly while everyone else is running around frantically because you understand the mechanics of compounding.
Can we break down those mechanics? Like, what does sitting quietly actually do for you?
Well, compounding only works if you don't interrupt it. If you are constantly shifting your strategy, buying and selling based on daily news, you reset the clock on your growth. And you incur taxes and fees every time you do it.
Right, you're paying a penalty for panicking.
The old money mindset understands that the heavy lifting in wealth creation is done by time, not by constant frantic activity. You make a solid, durable decision, and then you let the math take over for a decade.
It's like watching people panic on that shiny glass tower because a window cracked, while you're sitting comfortably on your stone foundation knowing the bedrock hasn't moved an inch.
You know the structure is sound. And this brings us to the natural evolution of this time frame, because once you stretch your thinking into decades, your ultimate definition of success naturally changes.
It's no longer about getting a quick influx of cash.
No.
The source explicitly states, making money is only half the battle. Keeping it is the real challenge.
And that is arguably the most difficult lesson for anyone newly entering a higher income bracket to learn. Making money requires one specific set of skills: aggression, risk-taking, disruption, innovation, and saying yes to almost everything.
Right, hustle culture.
Exactly. But keeping money requires the exact opposite toolkit: intense discipline, risk mitigation, extreme patience, and saying no almost constantly.
The mechanics of preservation.
Yes.
When you shift to preserving wealth, your toolkit completely changes. The text focuses heavily on protecting the principal, maintaining liquidity, and understanding the crucial difference between bad debt and productive capital.
These are the actual mechanisms of the silent architect.
Let's break these down into everyday terms, starting with protecting the principal and maintaining liquidity, because those can sound a bit like Wall Street jargon.
They do, but protecting the principal simply means your primary goal is to not lose the original pile of money you've built.
Just keep what you have.
Right. Before you worry about getting a massive return, you build a strategy to ensure you don't go backwards. And liquidity is the tool you use to protect it. Liquidity just means having enough accessible cash on hand so that when life inevitably goes wrong, a medical emergency, a lost job, a roof caving in.
The things that always happen.
The things that always happen. When they happen, you don't have to sell off your long-term investments at a terrible time just to get cash.
So if a market crash happens and you lose your job, but you have no liquidity, no cash savings, you are forced to sell your stocks at the absolute bottom just to buy groceries.
And you've destroyed your principal.
Right. But if you have liquidity, you just ride it out.
You ride it out, or if you have enough liquidity, you actually buy more assets while they are heavily discounted.
Yeah.
That is how the stone foundation survives the storm.
So what does this all mean when we bring debt into the equation? Because the notes draw a hard line between bad debt and productive capital. Can we clarify the exact math here with an everyday example?
Simply put, bad debt is borrowing money to buy something that loses value over time, or something that you simply consume. You are paying interest for the privilege of losing money.
Like using a high-interest credit card to go on a luxury vacation, or financing a depreciating asset like a flashy sports car just to impress people at a stoplight.
You are paying a premium to essentially rent a lifestyle. Productive capital, on the other hand, is using money, even borrowed money, if the interest rate is favorable, to acquire assets that generate more value than they cost.
Let's run the math on that. How does borrowing money actually make you wealthier?
Okay, let's say you take out a business loan to buy a new piece of equipment. The bank charges you 5% a year in interest. But that new equipment allows your business to double its output, increasing your total revenue by 20%.
Okay, I see.
The debt is essentially paying for itself, covering the 5% interest, and still generating a 15% profit margin for you. You are using someone else's money to buy your own time and create new growth.
That's brilliant.
A mortgage on a property that appreciates in value and provides necessary shelter operates on a very similar logic.
So productive capital works for you while you sleep. Bad debt requires you to wake up and work harder just to tread water.
And this raises an important question about how our modern society currently defines success. Our culture constantly asks, how much can I spend?
Right.
We measure success by the visible exhaustion of resources. We applaud people who can throw away the most money on a Friday night.
The shiny glass tower screaming for attention, the ultimate status tax.
But the old money mindset, the silent architect, asks a completely different question. How much can I protect and grow?
Which brings us to the biggest threat to protecting and growing, which is lifestyle creep.
The absolute silent killer of generational wealth.
I was thinking about this, and lifestyle creep is basically like a treadmill.
Oh, that's good.
Right. Like you get a promotion, you are making an extra 20 grand a year, so you speed up the treadmill, you lease a slightly more expensive car, you start going to nicer restaurants, you upgrade your apartment, you are running faster, you are sweating more, you are generating more income, but you are still in the exact same spot in the room.
Yeah.
Your actual net worth hasn't moved an inch.
That treadmill metaphor is perfect because it highlights the exhaustion of the process. Avoiding lifestyle creep is the ultimate defense mechanism of the silent architect. Let's walk through a 10-year career scenario.
Yeah, okay, let's do it.
Say your income starts at $60,000, and over 10 years, through promotions and hard work, it grows to $120,000.
A massive jump.
Huge. But if you let the treadmill speed up, that extra $60,000 gets completely absorbed by a luxury car payment, a bigger mortgage, expensive vacations.
You're sweating more, but standing still.
Exactly. But if you maintain the exact same standard of living because you have already invested in high-quality, timeless things that don't need constant replacing, that entire new income stream becomes productive capital.
You take that extra $60,000 and you just funnel it straight into your foundation.
It gets invested, it buys assets, it compounds over those decades we talked about. You step off the treadmill entirely and walk outside. You might be moving at a slower, quieter pace, but you are actually covering real ground.
You're building thicker and thicker stone walls for your foundation, instead of just buying more neon lights to stick on the roof.
You are prioritizing lasting freedom, absolute peace of mind, and unshakable security over temporary status symbols. You are fundamentally recalibrating your entire definition of a successful life.
It really is a complete recalibration. We're talking about intentionally taking off the pressure to perform for strangers, refusing to pay the status tax, buying for the decade instead of the season, even if it means starting with a $50 canvas boot, asking if a problem will matter in 10 years to kill the daily anxiety, and focusing on the mechanics, protecting your principal, maintaining liquidity, and using productive capital, rather than just figuring out how much you can spend to look successful. It's about becoming the silent architect of your own life.
It is undeniably a quieter path, but it is an infinitely more secure one.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, there's one last thread I really want to pull on. Something for you to mull over as you go about your day. We've talked extensively about how the old money mindset is deeply rooted in avoiding the status tax, avoiding the broadcast, and prioritizing physical privacy. Preservation over presentation.
It takes practice to flip the script.
It really does.
Yeah.
I have to drill it into my head. But here's the question. How does this mindset survive in our modern, hyper-digital world?
That's a tough one.
Think about it. We live in an era where our professional lives, our careers, our personal networks, they increasingly demand digital avatars. We are told by every career coach that we need highly visible public profiles, constant LinkedIn updates, carefully curated online personal brands, just to remain relevant in the job market or our respective industries.
It's true, it's expected now.
So is it even possible to be a completely silent architect today? Or does the modern world, by its very nature, force every single one of us to pay a digital status tax? Are we all just forced to build glass towers online, even if our foundation in the real world is made of stone?